Greetings from the Alexandrina Council. Let's meet the driving force behind the Alexandrina community. Chief Executive Officer, Andrew MacDonald. Mayor, Keith Parks. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Peter Oliver. West Ward, Councillor Bill Coomans. Councillor Lou Nicholson. Councillor Michael Scott. North Ward, Councillor Craig Maidment. Councillor Sue Miller. Councillor Christy Thornton. South Ward, Councillor Margaret Gardner. Councillor Millie Livingston. And finally, Councillor Peter Oliver.
Good afternoon. Welcome to our council meeting of Tuesday the 22nd of April 2025. An audio recording of this meeting will be made for minute-taking purposes and will last the length of the open meeting. The audio file will be available on the council website after the draft minutes have been circulated. I'd like to welcome our elected members. We have no apologies or leaves of absence. I'd also like to welcome our Chief Executive Officer, Andrew MacDonald, our General Manager Community, Stacey Batson, General Manager Infrastructure, Alan Harvey, General Manager Corporate, Tash Hunt, and other staff are here as required. I ask you please stand for the acknowledgement of country and the local government prayer. The Alexandrina Council and its communities acknowledge the Narranderi, the Paramak and the Gardner people as the traditional custodians of the lands and waters of our council district. Almighty God, we humbly beseech Thee to grant Thy blessing upon the works of this council. Guide us in our deliberation for the advancement and the true welfare of the people of the district. Thank you. Just to remind elected members, if you have a conflict of interest for the purpose of Part 4, Division 1, Subdivision 4 of the Local Government Act of 1999, in a matter which is before Council at this meeting, you are asked to disclose the interest of the Council and provide full and accurate details of the relevant interest. At the beginning of the meeting, members are reminded they must also deal with the conflict of interest in accordance with the relevant positions of Section 4, Subdivision 4, at the time the item arises on full consideration. We have advice from Councillor Miller regarding the item 2.2, the Southern Communities Transport Scheme minutes, and the Councillor Miller regarding 9.7, Adelaide Hills Regional Waste Management Authority Draft Annual Budget and Business Plan 2025-26, and from Councillor Oliver regarding item 9.9, which is the lease and licence policy of 2025. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me right? At back? Yep, sorry, that's right. So item 2 is confirmation of minutes. 2.1 is the confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary council meeting of the 17th of March 2025. Is there a move that we accept those? Councillor Maidment. Any discussion relating to those minutes? Not motion to you, all those in favour? Okay. Carried unanimously. 2.2 is the Southern Communities Transport Scheme minutes of the 19th of February 2025. Is there a recommendation that they be received and noted? Moved, Councillor. Sorry, you've got a...
I'm happy to move them, Your Worship, but I do have some questions around these minutes, if I may. When would you like me to ask those?
We'll ask them, yep.
I noticed this meeting was in February and it's now April, and I noticed that they have an outstanding resolution to have submitted a supply response form with the Department of Human Services for the delivery of the Community Transport SA program, and endorse the City of Victor Harbor as the auspicing body for the funding of Community Transport SA programs on behalf of Alexandrina Council, District Council of Yankalilla and Junction Australia. I just wondered if we could have an update on that, please, because there are some significant implications for the delivery of those programs in the North Ward if council is, if they are the auspicing group. I just was looking for some information about that, please.
Stacey, can you?
Thank you, through the chair. Unfortunately, I will have to take that one on notice.
One more question, Your Worship. I'm just interested what's in our draft annual business plan and budget for the Scots contribution, given that there are likely to be some significant changes in that space.
Thank you, through the chair. So in the operating budget of the community development team, or the wellbeing function, is, sorry, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but it's the 24-25 budget allocation for the Scots and for the Hills community transport to be included in the 25-26 budget. So it's, if you recall, we did a budget reconsideration for, I think it was 15,000 extra, so that amount of money is allocated to 25-26, and then the Hills community transport has been pulled into that as well. So no additional, exactly what was in 24-25, including the budget reconsideration.
And I just need to make my conflict of interest declaration, Your Worship, due to my employment. It's a general conflict of interest, but I'm comfortable asking these questions because everything I've asked is public, and I just wanted to make that known for the record. Thank you. I didn't get to make my declaration before.
So how are you going to handle the conflict?
I'm going to remain in the room and ask my questions because it's only received the minutes of decision. Thank you, Your Worship.
Right, so 2.2 is the Southern Transport Communities Transport Scheme minutes of the 19th of February 2025. There's a recommendation that they be received and noted. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Gardner? Yep.
Doesn't want to stay on. That at Scott's meeting last, the 16th of April, we heard that Scott's has to wait until September to know whether they have the contract with state government.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Coomans. Any discussion relating to those minutes? I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 2.3 is the Cemeteries Advisory Committee minutes of the 5th of March 2025. There's a recommendation that they be received and noted. Moved, Councillor Maidment.
And a question with that.
I noticed that there was a recommendation from the Cemetery Advisory Committee that the budget allocation of $35,000 be put in this year's budget to the cemetery plans for the whole of Alexandrina. Did that actually
Make it into the budget?
Sorry, I might have to ask Andrew to come up and answer that question, and it relates to the budget for the cemetery management plans. Andrew?
I was desperately trying to read the report and refresh my memory. I'm going to have to take it on notice because I can't actually recall it off the top of my head.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, there is actually a separate report for consideration of this item later on in the agenda, and that does consider that value that the committee can discuss at that point.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Livingston. Any further questions or discussion relating to those minutes? I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. Item 3 is adjourned debate. There is none. Item 4 is presentations and deputations. 4.1 is Sean Faulkner from Surf Life Saving SA, and Sean's here to speak to us about life-saving guards on the beach. Thanks, Sean. Do you need more than 5 minutes?
I may run over because I like to talk. I'll try and not talk about myself, that should speed it up.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors and council staff. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm here on behalf of Surf Life Saving South Australia to respectfully ask that the council reconsider its decision to withdraw funding for the professional lifeguard service at Goolwa Beach. Throughout Australia, professional council-funded lifeguard services are the norm in coastal communities. Councils across all states have long recognised the vital role of paid lifeguard services play in safeguarding public safety during peak periods. For example, here in South Australia, the City of Holdfast Bay funds a full season lifeguard service from the 1st of December through to the end of February, while also convening 6 monthly water safety committees with all local stakeholders along the coastline, running proactive water safety campaigns and treating coastal safety as a core civic duty. This approach aligns with both national expectations and reflects a clear message from coronial investigations. That is, that local governments have both a duty of care and a legal expectation to prioritise water safety within their jurisdictions. The role of Surf Life Saving South Australia is that we provide the Australian Lifeguard Services, which is the professional arm of our lifesaving in the state. This is a cost recovery basis with a zero profit margin, and councils are only asked to cover the wages of the local lifeguards, many who are residents in this area. We absorb all other associated costs: the training, personnel management, payrolling, equipment supply and maintenance, vessel and vehicle maintenance and running costs, and crew welfare and other logistical issues. We also provide strategic oversight via the State Operations Centre back in Adelaide. This is a manned facility which provides coastal safety camera network so that they have remote viewing of the beach conditions. They provide radio and telephone coordination and support remotely to try and ease the burden on the lifeguards on the beach, as well as provide that interface to SAPOL, SAS and other marine rescue facilities. This is recognised as the best practice model for providing lifeguard services on beaches. I think it's important that we highlight that Goolwa Beach is somewhat different. It is not your typical beach. It has been classified as a dissipated beach, where the surf zone itself is 4 times larger than the depth of a normal coastal surf zone you find on the eastern states. It has strong offshore currents, number of undertows, and has a dual sandbar setup, infamous for its rips that drag surfers and swimmers out to significant depth. As a result, it has been nationally classified as having a hazard rating of 8 out of 10, making it one of the most dangerous beaches in South Australia. However, Goolwa remains a popular destination for families, tourists and locals. However, many of these are not aware of the local conditions and the hazards that they represent. Lifeguards provide not only an emergency response, but also an active prevention and education service, which significantly reduces the likelihood of critical incidents occurring in the very first instance. It is difficult to put a price figure on the value of safety issues. Any safety initiatives is difficult to quantify. However, an independent assessment by Deloitte of the value of the lifeguard service during the 23-24 season has valued the community benefit at $2.7 million. This includes avoiding emergency service costs, reduced medical and recovery burden, and the intrinsic value of lives protected. In this past season, in the absence of lifeguard coverage, volunteers were called upon to conduct 4 rescues, 2 searches for missing persons, 1 major first aid response, respond to a report of disorderly behaviour, and assist SAPOL with a vehicle rollover up near the Murray mouth. incidents that would have otherwise been dealt with by paid lifeguards, but in this case we relied on the goodwill of our volunteer lifesavers to leave either their places of work or give up time on their holidays to respond to incidents on this beach. Lifeguard services are a cost-effective public safety investment. The return on the investment, both financially, socially and morally, is clear. In light of the beach known hazards, the strategic role lifeguards play in preventing tragedy, and the clear national standard of council-funded services, we respectfully ask that the council reinstates funding for the professional lifeguard service at Goolwa Beach. Your decision will directly enhance community safety, support local tourism, and demonstrate strong civic leadership in prioritising public welfare in your area. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to provide any further details or take any questions.
Thanks, Sean. Are there any questions? Councillor Gardner and then Margaret.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Sean. I wish you'd been here when we were discussing this, because this is something that I think is incredibly important. I guess one of the things that we're concerned about is that it costs a lot of money, but in terms of the lives that are saved, you've actually told us this evening that we could have used the paid lifesavers. So I think this is an incredibly important thing. And as I understood it, the lifesavers didn't come, the paid lifesavers didn't come from Goolwa, they actually came from other areas like Adelaide. Is that true or not?
We have a number of local lifesavers who actually act as lifeguards as well, who are based locally and are familiar with the local conditions, but given that we need to provide coverage Monday to Friday, we do engage also lifesavers who come down from the city.
Councillor Coomans.
Thanks, Sean. I guess I'm a great supporter of surf lifesaving. I certainly was a member when, or not a member, but a supporter when I lived at Hallett Cove, and that one sort of stopped some years back. But some years ago, the headquarters actually subsidised 50%. Council paid 50% and they paid 50%. And then they suddenly stopped. We went to the state government and they refused to contribute. So we don't spend any money on Port Elliot or the Kite and Rock surf lifesaving. Is the real issue here not so much that you have to bring professionals, but because you haven't got sufficient local volunteers to staff that beach? Is that the real reason?
Not at all, actually. Our volunteers give up an amazing amount of time on weekends. The Surf Lifesaving Australia model, not just here in South Australia, is that our volunteers provide a service on weekends and public holidays. So at Port Elliot, Crichton and Goolwa, our volunteers still step up, and they actually have a minimum of 5 lifesavers on duty. And I say minimum because that's an agreement they sign up to. Usually those numbers are 10 to 12 people per day. In recognition that Goolwa is a popular destination and it is a very hazardous and unique beach, the threat to personnel or individuals means that we strongly recommend the provision of a lifeguard service Monday to Friday. This cannot be provided by volunteers. If I can also address the concept of going to the state government, as I touched on, throughout Australia, all councils pay for lifeguard services. There is not a state or territory government that pays for lifeguard services, and they operate from Darwin, Broome, through WA, Victoria, New South Wales and Victoria, all the way to far north Queensland. Councils pay for lifeguard services. And this is even reflected in findings by coronial inquiries in the worst case happens, that the chief executive of the local council is always identified as having a requirement to implement corrective actions. So the coroners are very clear. On stereo. The coroner is very clear that there is expectation for the local councils because they have that, both a duty of care and that legal requirement. The other thing I'll touch on, you mentioned that previously the Surf Lifesaving South Australia funded 50%. We don't actually calculate our investment, but as I said, we absorb all the other costs. If I looked at the only thing that I have got, can put my finger on, the cost of the equipment to maintain, just the equipment and the servicing the vessels, the council correction to surf life saving at Goolwa Beach each year is just over $9,000. Does not take consideration the oversight of my time, my life-saving coordinator who visits weekly, the staff that are embedded in the State Operations Centre, the infrastructure and the training that are supporting. So if we actually did the numbers, I suspect it would be more than half is contributed by the state, which is why we are only asking for the councils, whenever we offer lifeguard service, to provide the wages of the lifeguards themselves. All other costs are picked up by Surf Life Saving South Australia.
Councillor Livingston.
Thank you, Sean. That was very beneficial. I agree with Councillor Gardner. I think it's very important that we have adequate surf life savers or guards at the beach, especially during the busy periods. I'm just wondering, I think it might be beneficial for the Chamber to understand the difference between a surf life saver, volunteer, and a paid guard. And then also the difference between the requirement for Goolwa, because it is such a dangerous beach, Monday to Friday, to have that presentation on the beach versus, say, Horseshoe Bay.
Yep. Firstly, our lifesavers are our volunteers who give up their time on weekends and public holidays, as I touched on earlier. The difference between a lifeguard and a volunteer is, whilst they give up their time, this is a paid role, so they actually hold all the skill sets that our lifesavers have, and usually more, so that they actually hold a higher level of award than the average lifesaver that you might see on the weekends. But it is effectively their place of employment, which is the only real difference, is that they're getting paid to provide that service, because we cannot be asking volunteers to work Monday to Friday. They have to have some way of covering their own family costs. In terms of the risk factors, Goolwa itself is an extremely hazardous beach. I cannot overstate the Australian Beach Safety Management Framework, categorising it as 8 out of 10 is amazing. Holdfast Bay, which operates the lifeguard service at Glenelg, that is actually classified as 3 out of 10. But as a result of drownings that have occurred there, the coroner has made very clear requirements that a lifeguard service. So technically, it's actually the same hazard rating as Horseshoe Bay, as you touched on. But we are not supportive of taking a gamble that things will not go wrong at Goolwa. I'm lucky enough to work for and volunteer for an organisation who has a very clear vision. 0 preventable deaths in South Australian waters, which is why our strong recommendation is that a paid lifeguard service is essential at Goolwa, especially at peak visitations in December and January.
Do we have any further questions, Councillor Scott?
Yes, I have several questions, if I may.
You're running out of time, so we've got about 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. If it's such a hazardous beach, why doesn't the government recognise that and fund it? We pay an enormous amount of money statewide to the Emergency Services Levy, which you have access to, and yet we're expected to use ratepayers' money to do this. It's only for 6 hours, so what happens before midday and what happens after 6 o'clock is back to normal. So we're only talking about 6 hours. And I just point out that the ambulance service covers about 40 odd stations in South Australia, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with about 1,400 volunteers. And I just can't see why, when the time that we're talking about, half of that time is during a total holiday. I mean, most people take holidays, universities are on holidays, and why on earth that cannot be covered by 2 volunteers each day for those 25 or 6 days, I just cannot understand. And yet we're expected to pay this money when the levy's sitting up there getting bigger and bigger. Those are my questions. You may like to answer it, and we actually don't own the beach. The beach is the responsibility of the Department of Environment and Water. So we're copying it on all sides.
If I may have not articulated myself well. Throughout Australia, all councils who have a coastal area have a clear expectation, both legally and a duty of care, to maintain it. The request to have the state government take it on would set an unrealistic expectation. In terms of the Emergency Services Levy, I can assure you, Surf Life Saving Australia sees an infinitely small amount of that funding to provide our services throughout the state. We do not receive the same level of government funding as the South Australian Ambulance Service, the CFS, or SAPOL, or any of the other emergency services. We are actually not recognised in the State Emergency Management Plan, and the funding is commensurately small in that case. In terms of why only 6 hours, we would actually like it to be funded for a much greater period. This is trying to make it an economical proposal which identifies the peak exposure periods, i.e. those periods of time where the beach is the busiest and more people are actually in the water. If you attend most beaches, you'll see people on the beaches early in the morning, but they're actually not in the water. They're not swimming, therefore they're not exposing themselves to the hazards. So ideally, yes, you're right, lifeguard services should be provided from about 8 o'clock through till around the sun sets, but that comes with a cost. If you want to think about that picture I put up with the lifeguards earlier on, I had a number of lifeguards wearing red and yellow, some wearing blue. Those one wearing blue are fully funded and supported by councils. To do those services, they are all upwards of $100,000 over the Christmas periods. Not just for 26 days, for the summer periods, they are 4 to 5 times more expensive, and that cost is borne by the local councils, and that is the expectation around the country.
Thanks very much, Sean. We've run out of time now, but thanks for your presentation and answering the questions. So 4.2 is Nadine Ingham.
Regarding the Riverside Road,
This thing's not working. It's Nadine Ingham regarding Riverside Road, Willyaroo. Nadine, are you here to speak to us? And do you need more than 5 minutes? No? Okay, thanks very much.
No, that's fine. Thank you and good evening, everyone. Almost 50 residents living in proximity of Riverside Road have shared concerns about the dust. This is not a problem in which a few disgruntled locals have little better to do. We understand that dirt roads get dusty in summer and muddy in winter. To be clear, these are people who have lived close to Riverside Road for many years without a single complaint about its unsealed nature. However, since the start of summer last year, our daily lives have been impacted by dust. Not just the nuisance kind, where residents' ability to enjoy their properties are hindered by dust, constantly covering plants, outdoor entertaining spaces, and laundry on the clotheslines. This is a health and safety issue. There are many families in Willyaroo, and asthma is something that affects 1 in 10 boys and 1 in 16 girls under the age of 15. According to Asthma Australia, one of the biggest triggers for symptoms of asthma is dust. As an example, there is a 14-year-old girl living on Riverside Road with asthma. After worsening symptoms and increased attacks over the summer holidays, her family realised it was the billowing dust across the yard every time a vehicle travelled past. Her ability to go outside was severely restricted, not due to a once-off dust storm, but on a weekly basis. Riverside Road has a large roadside verge, and it's used daily by bike riders, walkers, and horse riders. The risks being posed by the dust generated by vehicles, especially trucks, driving past are frightening. Daily users should not be in a position where they become so heavily engulfed in lingering dust clouds that visibility is lost for an extended period. It has resulted in one horse riding accident that I know of, which left a horse bolting through the dust. The foreseeable risks do not need explanation. While the prolonged dry conditions may be contributing to the dust issues across the state more broadly, dismissing concerns on this basis fails to address 3 very important things. First, this issue began in early summer, when weather conditions would be considered typical. Second, it neglects the increased traffic, especially small and large trucks using Riverside Road, as a cause. And third, councils are under a duty to maintain local roads to ensure they are safe in all conditions. There are various solutions available. These include dust suppression treatments, more regular road maintenance, planting trees along the verge, or simply reducing the speed limit. Residents do recognise that sealing the road is not at all feasible at this point. However, there is a duty to do something to ensure the road is safe. I thank Council for allowing me to speak today and respectfully ask, on behalf of residents, for Council to consider these options. Thank you.
Thanks, Nadine. Are there any questions? Councillor Coomans?
Hi Nadine. I was just looking at a map of where all the houses were, and I noticed there's quite a few on Lockabar Drive, and they all back onto the Riverside.
Correct.
Is that one of the main issues, that area there?
Yeah, I think you'll find that there's it's just under a kilometre stretch of Riverside Road where the properties back directly onto the dirt road is definitely the most problematic, where it was, and I'm on the drive and back onto that section, and one of the things that we found, even just the kids being in the backyard or riding the pony in the paddock, on the property itself, the white dust that would come over and just sit, it was extraordinary. So.
Another one?
Yeah, so and the rest of Riverside, it's fairly sparsely populated in terms of housing. There's a couple of houses that sort of front onto there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking from 9 Mile Road to the first house, that's probably about 600 metres, maybe 800 metres in total from 9 Mile Road. Is that probably the area that you want us to focus on?
Up to the corner, I believe the first corner, so that there's the stretch from 9 Mile Road, that straight stretch up until the first corner, I think is about 800 metres. It might be just under a kilometre, which is the main area, is where it's built up. Yes.
Any further, Councillor Maidment?
Yeah, hi there, Nadine. I'm fully aware of the issues there, and we have tried to get speed reductions in a lot of, particularly on 9 Mile Road and Dry Plains Road, and it's very difficult to get any reduction. But I'd like you to tell people how many B doubles go down there a day, because they're bypassing the township, in my opinion, and they should be going down the bitumen roads. So that would be a big issue. And thanks for your petition, by the way. That carries a lot of weight to your argument.
Okay, you're welcome. So there was a period there, it must have been probably in February, because I was home most days during that period, and it was daily, maybe half a dozen times a day. There were massive trucks travelling up and down the road, and in hindsight I wish I got footage or a photo of the trucks, because it was the same trucks of the same company that was using the road for about a month up and down. That was particularly problematic. And I do believe we've only been there for 3 years, and even in that short time have noticed the increase in traffic. And it's clearly being used as a cut-through or a bypass for trucks. Yeah.
Any further questions? Thanks very much, Nadine. Thanks for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
4.3 is a deputation from Mr. Joyce regarding the footpath on Excelsior Parade, Hindmarsh Island. Lance, did you need more than 5 minutes?
Oh, I'd love a half an hour, but I don't think I'm going to get it. If I can get 10 minutes, that'd be great.
Yeah, you happy with 10 minutes? Hands up, thank you. Yes? No? No, that's enough, that's fine.
I apologise, I'm deaf, I'm not hearing too much here, so you'll almost have to bang me on the arm if they want to stop me. I'll just fire away.
We'll let you know when you've got the 10 minutes.
I'm sure you will, thank you. Mayor and councillors and staff, thank you very much for providing me the opportunity to address the council. I'm Lance Joyce. You should know me. I've written several papers on this Excelsior Parade project. Covering the technicalities and function of the proposed pathway for Excelsior Parade. I'd humbly suggest that you might like to reacquaint yourself with those papers. There's a lot of technical stuff there. Tonight, I'm primarily here to present a petition on behalf of residents to live on the monument side of Excelsior Parade. Effectively, that's the properties between Blanche and Britannia. This section of the roadway, shown on the screen, highlighted on the screen, that is probably the most dangerous and requires your immediate attention. Within the last few weeks, we've had a pedestrian hit by an alleged hit-and-run driver. Fortunately, the injuries were not life-threatening. In addition, we had another vehicle hit the rear of a legally parked truck trailer, riding off the vehicle. So it's only a matter of time before there's a fatality. Please note, the residents have been calling for a pathway for over 10 years. It's very clear by the number of petitions, submissions and data gathered by council and others that this council has made a decision that is contrary to the community's wishes and incredibly also in direct conflict with advice from council's own administration. However, it still remains that the reports presented to council are littered with incorrect information. The community also believes, based on legal advice provided by our Member of Parliament, that the council decision C24500 is non-complying with the development plan. The screenshot's an extract of the LGA 1999. Please refer to the note highlighted on the screen, which states, unless provided by this or another act. And if you understand that, that is the State Act, which covers the development plans, overrides what council wishes to do. I don't think you can get it much clearer. The report offered to council on the 9th of September 2024 regarding the pathway project has numerous details that are not correct, and the author, who is not a qualified engineer, has made, in our opinion, numerous defective and questionable statements. I'm not here to crucify any administration officer, but our concerns are that unqualified staff are making statements to council and council is just expected to receive it as fact. Here are some of the examples that are stated. Lighting issues. Now, we don't believe there's actually a lighting issue anyway, but it can be remedied by a simple fitting change that would cost the community nothing. The lights are due for replacement anyway. Why didn't the contracting advising engineer pick up on that fact? It's very simple. Refer now to the aerial shot, and this is a classic, of the proposed pathway, which was advised that the report as being steep, too steep in fact, that the pathway adjacent to the boundary, right, that pathway adjacent to the boundary, marked up in yellow, supposedly the steep section. Here's a photograph. Have a look at that. I'm going to call it what it is. It's bullshit. And by the way, I'm qualified to make that statement. Now let's take a quick look at MySay data. As presented to council in the screen on the left-hand side, note in the report you were told that the residents were split either way. Might be correct, technically correct, because that includes the side streets, who don't really give a stuff either way. Let me ask you, who has to put up with the consequences of a bad decision? The answer in this case is Excelsior Parade residents. So look at the right-hand side of the screen. The facts are that actually 60% of Excelsior Parade residents have requested the pathway to be on the monument side of the council survey. So why did council listen to the Billabong Road residents and not the Excelsior Parade residents? Same scenario, bad advice, or is there some other influence? Regarding this petition that I'm presenting tonight, here's the breakdown. I've done a lot of this homework for you as admin's people. This only includes the 31 properties on the monument side of Excelsior Parade. And they've signed this petition. 31 properties, 9 vacant, 2 known B&Bs, 1 unresponsive, 6 joint signatures, so I've isolated out so you're not multiplying signatures, 9 single signatures. Out of the 18 responses, 15, 84%, want it on their side of the road. Am I clear? It's also come to my attention via Freedom of Information request on the 4th of the 12th, and I subsequently was advised on the 18th of the 12th, 24, that the council did not have a copy of the development plan. Did not have a copy of the development plan. Incredibly, council staff have been engaging in communication regarding this development plan with SA Planning as late as October 24. The details within it are extremely critical. I have subsequently obtained a copy via other avenues. My question therefore is, how could a response be drawn where there was no reference material available to base the response? Again, if council did not have a copy in its possession, how could consultants, engineers and any project manager be properly informed to make decisions, even comment on the Excelsior Parade Pathway project? They simply could not. The screenshot, there's a road profile of what's included in the development plan, and there's a breakdown of that. Now, you've got to remember, this was signed into law in April 1999. Councillors, where are we? Lost track of what I was talking. 1990, sorry, April 1990 it was signed into. And that section speaks, go back one a bit, but speaks directly to the environmental controls. And these controls are being completely ignored with your motion. The development plan is continually referred to at each change and additional stage of the Goolwa Marina project. Council and some councillors have continually advised residents that this marina development was dumped on them. This is not the case. The development plan details the entire handover process. It's been there for 35 years, in fact. You've had time to budget for it and plan for it, and it's not occurred. Leaving the residents without infrastructure that they consider, that today we consider a basic necessity in today's environment. The development has also not been monitored, and simple compliance issues are now almost the builders filling in swales, changing road reserve profiles, removing trees. And by the way, the trees that should have been installed as part of the development program, the development plan, are council responsibility. The irrigation system in reserves that were mostly in place have been left to deteriorate to a point where the entire systems may need to be replaced. This council has not delivered on the basic infrastructure and maintenance that we as ratepayers are funding, nor is council ensuring compliance with fundamental environment controls that are critical to the safety and well-being of our waterways within this development and the River Murray. The community needs, as a matter of urgency, a complete review of this development and a plan to bring it back in line with the existing development plan. Most importantly, appropriate training and selection of suitably qualified staff that have the ability and empathy to understand, very important that bit, understand this particular development infrastructure and have the knowledge and skills to maintain it to community expectations. We must ask several questions. Why were the administration reports not entirely accurate? Why is there an appearance of a skewed conclusion against the true facts? That's the motion. And why was the obvious solution that stares even the simplest of non-technical persons in the face simply ignored? Is it because council staff didn't have the appropriate development plan, or is there another underlying sinister issue? I draw your attention to a very concerning issue that raises serious questions as to the public perception of the integrity of this council.
We're now over 10 minutes.
We recognise...
So if you can sum up quickly,
Very,
over 10 minutes.
Yeah, we recognise that some decisions council make affect property interests of councillors. Technically, some of these decisions do not require councillors to advise the council of their interest. However, it would be prudent to do so to avoid negative perceptions. Information gleaned from your council minutes has at no time Councillor Margaret Gardner declared a conflict of interest. And the irony is that she has an interest in the property on the monument side of Excelsior Parade and also chaired the meeting that made that decision. We request that, first of all, council has failed to completely be transparent, has based its decision on defective information, has made a decision against the affected residents.
Lance, you need to sum up. You've gone over the 10 minutes well and truly now.
That's okay. I think you've all got my understanding.
Are there any questions for anybody? Councillor Scott.
If it was so important, why wasn't the footpath put in when the thing was developed in the first place?
You asked the government that. That's a. It was requested by council, no doubt about that. I believe you've had communication with the state government. I can't answer that.
Are there any further questions? No. Thanks very much.
You've had 35 years to sort it out, though.
Thank you very much, Lance. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you.
Item 5 is petitions. Point 1 is a petition regarding Riverside Road, Willyaroo, and the recommendation that we receive the petition. Moved Councillor Thornton. Seconded Councillor Miller. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. 5.2 is the footpath regarding the footpath on Excelsior Parade, Hindmarsh Island. There's a recommendation that we receive that petition. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Coomans. Seconder? Deputy Mayor. Councillor Oliver. I'll put that to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. Item 6 is questions with notice. 6.1 is a question from Councillor Miller regarding the Strathalbyn Town Hall opening and management. 6.2 is a question from Councillor Miller regarding the Strathalbyn Waste and Recycling Depot opening hours and future planning. The questions and the answers to the questions are in the agenda. Item 7, questions without notice. Are there any questions without notice? Councillor Coomans.
Thanks, Mayor Parks. I was just looking at the budget for the wooden boat festival, and it's got an item in there, and I've been asked by some community members about this. There's an item in there for fireworks at $14,500. I'm assuming that's coming out of the 60,000 that council are contributing towards this. Where's it coming from?
Thank you. Through the chair. I'm just going through in my head what I can say due to confidentiality, but I think I can share that I think it's public now that it's through a sponsorship. It is public, thank you. So it's from McMahon's and the Wharf construction team. So Goolwa Jetty Builders, and my apologies, I can't remember the other name, but the fireworks is being sponsored in full by those local providers.
Any other questions without notice? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Worship. I just had a question of clarification for my question about the Town Hall. In the Alexandrina Alive latest edition that came out last week, it states that the work is scheduled to be finished in May 2025. The answer to my question has a soft opening in July 2025, and I just was curious. I thought there was a wedding held in the Town Hall during the construction phase, so I'm just seeking some clarification around the opening, and if there was indeed a wedding there at some point.
Thank you. Through the chair. Yep, I believe there was a wedding. I think I might have just started. I can't quite remember now. Apologies, but it has been closed as a construction site for the remainder of the works. And the reason why we do, I think it might be in my answers there, but the reason why we need that extra time is so that the community team can be handed the building from the infrastructure project team and the contractors, and then we need that time to make sure the building's safe, set it up with hire-only operations, checklists, things like that, which is why we're saying that we need a little bit of time, a buffer, to actually get it ready for a soft opening.
Any further questions? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Worship. I have questions without notice that relate to the item, the Riverboat Centre fit out, and I did provide them in advance, that I would be seeking a seconder to have these questions and the answers included in the minutes. May I ask those questions now, or would you like me to ask them as questions of clarification when we get to that item? But
You'll need to ask the chamber to agree to accept those questions and to note them in the minutes. So I'll ask the chamber, all those in favour of accepting the questions and noting them in the minutes? No, just so who's in favour of having them in? 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not enough. Sorry, you need 2/3. Yeah. You can ask the questions, but recording them in the minutes is not accepted.
sorry, there was a majority. I need 2/3, do I? Oh, well, I'll ask them. When did it become apparent that the budgeted $250,000 for the Riverboat Centre fit-out had run out?
Okay, through the Mayor, as provided to you in an email this morning covering all 16 questions that you have. The response to the first question is that it became apparent a few weeks ago, when after a period where I meet regularly with the team, the Friends of Oscar W that have been doing the fit out. We look at the planning and we look at the budget, and up to that point they've been working very hard to stay within the budget they've provided to them. They'd even put their own money into the project, as is stated within the report. And it's at that time that we decided that it would be that they should come forward and seek some level of costs back for variations that we believed were due.
Yes, I did ask these this morning, but I've been at work all day, so I apologise if these have been provided to me, but the public may be interested in them as well. What value management decisions, if any, occurred and have been made to scale back in other areas, and can this please be tabled at the meeting?
Through the Mayor, we do not do that kind of exercise on our projects, so we don't carry value management documentation. In this particular instance, I've worked side by side with the Friends of Oscar W and have been there with them as we've moved through this project, and I'm completely comfortable that they have done everything they can to keep the costs of the refit within the budget that's been allocated to them. They have leveraged local suppliers, they have leveraged local trades. A high proportion of the value of work is through local suppliers and local tradespeople who have provided, at times, at cost, services to Friends of Oscar W. They've also taken items out of the original refit. There are several that they have removed in order to try and stay within that budget.
How does not adopting the recommendations cause a possible delay to the completion of the Riverboat Centre fit out? And can that please be tabled?
Through the Mayor, we're referring to the risk assessment within the report that's at the end, which is a risk assessment that's undertaken on the council's own risk matrix. So there were two elements to that. One was around council and the public perception of council, and the other was around the risk that there is still work to be finished there, and some elements may not be able to be completed because money will not be available to fully recompense suppliers and trades to complete those works.
When and how has this request for additional funds been made to administration, and can this please be tabled?
Through the Chair, so a request came through as correspondence to us to request that these variations be put to council. That electronic version of that was included in the email that went out to all council members.
The additional amount is $33,975. How did the Friends arrive at their share being $11,250 and council's share being the balance? Can this please be tabled?
Through the Mayor, within that same document, which is the request that came from Friends of Roster W, they do itemise and provide a breakdown of those variations. One of those was to do with the door at the front, and that was the automation of that door. They have conceded and have covered the costs that, which is $11,250, which is how they come to that figure.
And can a copy of the fit-out funding agreement referred to in the agenda report between the Friends of the PSSW and Council please be tabled at this meeting?
Through the Mayor, that document has been provided electronically in the email response to you and all council members.
I think I'll put the rest of mine on notice. Thank you, Worship.
Are there any further questions without notice? If not, we'll move on to item 8, which is notices of motion, and there are none. We move to 9, which is administration reports. 9.1 is the draft annual community plan 2025-26 public meeting dates, and there's a recommendation there with 3 dot points. Is there a mover for that, Councillor Oliver? And a seconder, Councillor Livingston. Is there any discussion? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Worship. I wasn't aware that we were going to change calling our annual business plan to a annual community plan. But I would still like to see this referred to as an annual community business plan and budget. I did send through some information today. So I'm seeking either by variation or amendment that we call this document an annual community business plan and budget, please.
So it's up to the mover to agree to the variation, which he doesn't, so there'll be no variation.
I'll move an amendment then, please, Your Worship.
You can move an amendment.
It's very simple. It's just to call it an draft annual community business plan and budget. And that's, everything else is as printed. And I would also like to, and I have provided the wording, I would like to have a meeting in the Langhorne Creek Memorial Hall as part of the annual business plan and budget consultation. And I'm happy to speak to my amendment if I may. I think this year, above all years, If we're going to meaningfully distinguish between past years, we need to remain focused on our budget. I agree with distinguishing this annual business plan document from its predecessors. I hope it's not just a name change, but also a removal of full A4 size pictures. Some of us like a hard copy printed to reference once it's finalised. I hope it also has a much more expansive section for our biggest exposure, which is wastewater. The venues have been selected based on capacity, availability and accessibility, with a focus on achieving a balanced geographic spread across the region. I pulled out my council ward map. There's 2 meetings in the West Ward, there's 2 in the South Ward, and there's 1 in the North Ward in Strathalbyn. And the North Ward is the biggest ward geographically. For me, this is about equity, access and inclusion. And I hope that we can have a public budget meeting in Langhorne Creek where the people from Malang can attend and the people from Woodchester can easily attend. So I'm just asking if we, this year, above all years, I'd like every opportunity to be transparent, accountable, and most importantly, accessible, to hear from the community and also have the opportunity to test and validate and explain firsthand messaging around council's affordability and sustainability. And that is my amendment. Thank you.
So we have a seconder for the amendment? Seconder? The amendment will lapse through one of us. Can you, Councillor Thornton, if you're going to make a movement, can you please do it while I'm asking and not afterwards? I'd asked twice and then you decide to put your hand up. So I'll accept that you're seconding it. Is there any person speaking against? If not, you're speaking against a question, all right.
Thank you, Worship. I'm just wondering how, if we have a budget to accommodate a 5th meeting, because I understand we originally had 3, we've extended to 4 public meetings. If we go to a 5th, does that fit into our current budget for this?
Through the chair, it's really probably just the room hire, so I'm sure we can find some money for that. There is obviously cost of staff time and everything, but again, that's something we can absorb unless the CEO wants to add anything.
No, through the chair, there'll certainly be an additional cost with anything that council does. So we would need to work out what that would actually be, but there would definitely be an additional cost.
So is anybody speaking? You got a question? A question, yeah.
Could I ask a question, please? In relation to last year when we had 3 sites, we had Goolwa, Strath and Mount Compass. What were the numbers of attendees? And I think it was 69 in Compass and about 19 in the other 2 sites.
Through the chair, I think that's right. We did include that in a presentation recently. I don't have the figures on me, but I'm pretty sure you're correct.
So is there anybody to speak against?
Yeah.
Yeah,
look, I do speak against it. I had reservations about including Port Elliot as well, but given that Goolwa is going to be in the morning and Port Elliot's in the evening, it's probably a good balance. But if you take a compass and put it on, funny I should mention that, if you take a compass and put it on Mount Compass and put it on Goolwa and put it on Strath, the areas are roughly the same. So I thought the way we did it last year was pretty good. Given the attendance, 19, roughly 19 in Goolwa, 19 in Strath, it wasn't as if half the population turned up. It was, a cross section, and some people went to more than 1 meeting. So I'm supporting of the 4 because of that time element. But there's a cost to all of this. There's a cost to actually having a meeting in Strath, but people seem to lose sight of we're not going to spend money, but then suddenly we do. So I don't think really it's necessary to have one in Langhorne Creek. I think people just travel to the nearest site if they've got an issue, and The 4 are supported on the basis I just mentioned.
So is there any discussion for the amendment? If not, I'll put it to you. I'll put the amendment to you. All those in favour? Against? That is lost. So we go back to the original recommendation. So is there any discussion, Councillor Coombs?
Is that being moved or?
It's been moved and it's been seconded.
Okay, thank you. Speak in support.
Okay, so that's 4, yeah. Is there any discussion against? If not, I'll put Councillor Faulkner, yeah.
I noted there wasn't any allocation made for the cost of an additional location. Is there any, do we have any figures on that, on what it has costed to add the 4th?
Through the chair, it's being held at a council-owned venue, so it's just the time of putting that session on.
So that was against. Is there anybody for? Wish to speak for? If not, I will put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Against? It's carried unanimously. You just have to put your hands up and keep them up a little bit longer while I go from one side of the room to the other and look around the corners to see Councillor Oliver. 9.2 is the Goolwa Wharf project completion, and there's a recommendation there that Council receive and note the report. Are you moving that, Councillor Miller?
No, I'm moving what I sent through earlier today. Thank you, Worship.
I'll ask Andrew to tell me what the implications of that are. Councillor Miller? Livingston, sorry. I might be right in a minute. You should have declared the interest at the beginning of the meeting.
Correct, but with these, I'm declaring it because of these amendments.
Because you haven't seen these yet.
Okay. I've seen them, but because they're now being considered by the chamber, I'm declaring a general conflict of interest due to a related party being a contractor on the Wharf revitalisation project. But noting the contents, I will be staying in the chamber.
So
a long time ago, Alan, to see whether he has any concerns.
Alan, do you have any concerns with the implications of this?
Through the Mayor, no, I don't, except that it's asking for additional reporting to occur. Further down in the recommendations, we were looking to, as a part of this, the reason for providing the report was to conclude the project, and so that we could then move on to other work.
Just discussing this. This is a motion. Basically, this is a motion, maybe on the subject, but it's a motion without notice. And so administration hasn't prepared any information supporting or the implications of this motion. We don't take motions without notice because we need to know all the background before you vote on it. If you want to move what's in front of me and speak to it, you can.
Thank you, Worship. 1 and 2 are what's written in the report. I've just lifted them out to make them clear. The report says that the remaining capital budget allocation balance will be presented in the upcoming quarterly project report to the May council meeting. That's not new, that's in the report. It also says that no further capital work is planned at this stage and administration are finalising grant payments and acquittals, because I too do want to see this completion report. I asked questions of administration earlier this month or late last month, and I was told that my questions would be answered in the report that was coming to this council meeting, which is this report. Point 3 is simply noting that the cost of $17,614 for the installation of the remaining 2 spring poles is being captured as part of this project. That was in an email that came from the CEO to us, I think it was earlier this week. So I'm just, for the sake of the public, wanting to make that known that there were a remaining 2 spring poles put in at the wharf. Point 4 speaks to a quarterly report, and I'd be quite happy to change this to just be of the $18.1 million, what was renewal and what was upgrade or new. I have been asking for that for, well, probably well over a year and more recently. So I just want to know what is renewal and what is upgraded or new works. So I'm quite happy, if it makes it more palatable, to just say list the amount that was upgraded or new and what was renewal. I've also been asking where in council's asset management plans will the Wharf project be captured. I do not want another council in 50 years' time facing what we have faced as a chamber because we haven't accounted for depreciation, we haven't managed this asset. That's all that point 5 is asking, that it be included in an asset management plan somewhere. And then point 6 is asking, as a continuous improvement exercise, for a report that talks about what lessons were learnt in delivering this Goolwa Wharf project. And I think that, I would hope that that's been done anyway as part of an acquittal and a peer review when we complete projects of this magnitude, because this project started at $7.5 million and landed at $18.1 million. We must have learnt some lessons in an exercise of that. So that is all this is asking. It is not asking for additional information, it's just clarifying what I've asked. Would you like me to stop, Your Worship? I'm not sure if you heard what everything I just said.
I'm just finding out what I'm going to do with this. That's okay, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind.
You carry on, but I'm not voting.
I have finished. It's not asking for any extra work that's not already indicated in this report as being provided. It's seeking clarification as to what we will get. Thank you.
So my advice from Lachlan is that we would accept the motion 1, 2 and 3, parts 1, 2 and 3 as okay, as the motion, and 4, 5 and 6 will be taken on notice and brought to a next meeting. So is there a seconder for 1, 2 and 3? Seconder, Councillor Nicholson. So is there a speaker against? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Right, let's start again. Right, try and get this right. You just make my job harder every time. All those in favour? Against? It is carried. So 9.3 is the Riverboat Centre budget proposal. There's a recommendation with 4 dot points. It's moved to Councillor Coopmans. Do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, please, Mayor Parks. It's certainly been a joy for me to be the liaison officer between Council and the Friends of the Oscar W. But firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the amount of work that staff have put into this, particularly GM Alan Harvey and Stacey Basin, sorry. I had a mental blank then. When I saw those 16 comprehensive questions this morning, I was a little bit worried that having to make the time to answer those, and they did, and I thought that was terrific. But also, I really want to acknowledge the Friends of the Oscar W group, and they're mostly here in the gallery to come and listen to what we're saying. Part of a dedicated, passionate mob of people who are rather unique to our Alexandrina community. These are the volunteers who look after Council's steam-powered Riverboat and are managing the fit-out of the RHC on the Wharf and providing countless hours of volunteering. This volunteer group includes boat captains, first mates, boiler engineers, work health and safety experts, expert administrators from management to accounting. Alexandrina is so lucky to have these volunteers. These people have done an exemplary job in bringing the Community Riverboat Heritage Centre to life, pretty much ready for the Wooden Boat Festival. The majority of the works has been undertaken by some 30 local suppliers and trades, including electricians, carpenters, plumbers, project manager and other experts. 60% of the budget went to local. That's amazing. In looking at the budget for the project, it's obvious to me that some of the costs should be shown as fixtures, not as fit-outs. Examples include the external dooring, the cantilever doors at the southern end, which was missed in the original design. Doors on the wharf were also incorrectly included. There were also security issues and delays that caused extra hours to have to be spent by the project consultant and manager. The Friends of the Oscar W have actually had to dip into their own precious funds to enable things to happen. If you visited the site, you would have found the volunteers there on almost daily basis, either painting or etching or fixing things, planning the events post-project management, and at the same time ensuring the Oscar W continues to provide that all-important service. They are now asking for your endorsement for a budget adjustment, which was initially set at $250,000, but reduced to just over $183,000. They asked for under $23,000 to cover necessary contributions they made, and I think can be funded from the Wharf project contingency, which is currently running at about $250,000. Staff have found the additional costs to be fair and reasonable, as unforeseen and unavoidable. And what they'd like to use the money for is to fund some of the key elements like a kids' activity table, a model display for larger items, some window signage, large hero image, a traffic counter and entry security gate, and a sound system for functions. As a liaison contact between Council and the Friends of the Oscar W, I think it's important to continue to have a cooperative and friendly relationship into the future. There is no brainer for me, even though I live at the other end of the council area. I'd be amazed and disappointed if not all of the local council members supported this project. I therefore ask my fellow council members to support this request and allow the Friends of the Oscar W to get on with what they do best, to provide a very valuable service to the whole community. Thank you.
So, do we have a seconder? Councillor Oliver, do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Coomans. Just to add to that, congratulations to the Friends of Oscar W for your success today. You have certainly done a lot with a very little. And thank you for working so efficiently with council, contractors and the community. I'm so excited about this and I can't wait for the opening. And can I say that I believe that the Friends of Oscar W are the heritage heroes of Goolwa. And this is only the beginning. The best is yet to come. Thank you.
So is there anybody to speak against? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Worship. I endorse what Councillor Coomans has said and what Councillor Oliver has said. I feel I need to stress that I have never, and I am not, questioning the dedication, passion or volunteering work that the volunteers have done. I'm speaking against this because it's not about that. I agree we are lucky to have them and the boat, and I am not questioning them bringing it to life. I am not questioning the work done or the quality of it or that it's been done by local people. I'm delighted by that and I look forward to seeing it. My issue, just to be very clear, I should not have had to ask the questions that I asked. You are asking for us to spend public money from borrowings on the basis of a less than one-page report with no supporting information. That's why I asked the questions that I asked. This is public money. I too want a cooperative and positive relationship, and I stress again, I should not have had to ask the questions that I asked because it was a one-page report with no supporting information. The last report we had on the Riverboat Centre fit-out was the 15th of July last year, a 40-page report. That report stepped out the timeline for decisions around the fit-out, and this topic alone, the fit-out, has come to Council no less than 7 times since the 16th of January 2023. We now had presented a 1.5-page report, which was barely a page if you take out the heading recommendation, asking for $22,000 to be funded from borrowings with zero evidence of just what it was to be used for. This on top of the $250,000 already allocated to the Friends for the fit-out of the Riverboat Centre. And it was $250,000, not $183,000, because in February 2024 and March 2024, the Friends were adamant they wanted to go with their own designer and project manager, and Council resolved to allow that. And Council explicitly noted at that time that there is no contingency within the remaining budget, and if there is overspend in any areas, other items will be scaled back. That is why I asked the questions that I asked, and the only reason I asked them. Additionally, the 1.5-page report on tonight's agenda said administration and the Friends have been meeting formally every 2 weeks and at other times as required to provide support and manage any emerging issues within the coordination of the base build and their fit-out works, to progress invoice payments and validate the claims for reimbursement by the Friends. That is why I asked my questions, because the frequency of the meetings that have been occurring to get asked for $22,000 and not put at risk completing this in time for the Wooden Boat Festival, which is less than a week away, feels like we're just, a gun to our head to say yes to this. Well, you know what? That's not acceptable to me, and I am voting against it for that reason. They may well indeed need the money, but I haven't seen. I asked my questions this morning. I've been at work all day, and I don't understand why the documents that now are being referred to were not provided as attachments to the report if we've had them for any length of time. We've been here in Goolwa for 6 out of 8 budget workshops. Not a peep has anybody said anything about the Oscar W needing, the fit-out needing more money. We are under immense pressure with our borrowings, and I think, why wouldn't we test and validate that being asked for $22,000? If it was my money, I'd be asking for evidence that it's needed. So I stress again, I should not have had to ask administration for the answers to my questions. And I am not questioning the passion, skill, dedication, anything of the volunteers. I know it's an important part of our history, but really, I think we could have had a better report come to this chamber. And I can't support it because I don't know what the $22,000 is for. And so I will be voting against this. And it's something that can be considered with a little bit more care and perhaps some further discussion and exploring, and again, a peer review of how this happens, that, $250,000 wasn't enough. They've had a year. Thank you.
Is there a speaker for Councillor Livingston?
Thank you, Mayor Parks. I understand that we're needing to be mindful of our budget, but I'm also mindful that we need to finish off our projects properly. I do want to say I do appreciate what Councillor Miller has asked, all of these questions. And from my perspective, I've had the benefit of spending time with members of the Friends of the Oscar W, and that's why I'm comfortable in supporting this motion. The partnership with the Friends of the Oscar W and Council has come a long way in the last couple of years, and I can only applaud the volunteers and administration for this. We as a council have a wooden boat strategy and make a commitment to showcase our heritage, and I see this as part of that. I've spent time in the Riverboat Centre and love what they are doing. This will be a great space once it is completed. After going through the additional costs with members of the Friends, I can see why the request has been made and how the additional costs are outside of their control. And that is why I'm speaking in support of this motion. Thank you.
So is there a speaker against? Councillor Thornton.
More so a question, I suppose, then, because I would like to also know a bit more of a breakdown of what this cost is going to. It seems like a few people know, but others don't, and I think we need to know what it's going for. We would do this with any other request for funds of what it's for, so I'd like to see a breakdown if possible.
So, anybody speak for? Councillor Scott.
I was trying to think of a simile, but the best I can come up with it, this would be the aortic valve of the heart of the tourism industry of Goolwa. Terribly, terribly important. In a perfect world, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But the world isn't perfect, and I, smart like my colleagues, at the problems that have befallen us over the development of the Wharf. But we're dealing with a volunteer group that have worked tirelessly to make this happen, and there have been some unforeseen discrepancies that have occurred. And there is a contingency fund, and contingency funds are to fund contingencies. This is $22,000 in one part of an 18 million project, and to me it is unthinkable that we would not support this on the brink of having it finished and everything going off with the plans that have been made and laid out and the opportunities that are there. As I say, it would be to me unthinkable that we would not put in the 20. It's not next year's money, it's this year's money, and I think that we've gone so far, and it is the gem, one of the gems of South Australia that's sitting there. It's going to be polished up even more with a Riverboat Centre, and I just seek your support to make this happen. It is so close, and there's an old saying, why would you spoil it for the sake of a penn'orth of tar?
So is there a speaker against? If there's nobody to speak against, I'll speak, and then you can have your right of reply. I just say that it hasn't been included in our budget deliberations, in our public sessions that we've had, because it's not coming out of the next year's budget. And it's a very recent request. It's not something that we've known about for months. I just remind you about this project, $18 million, and the toing and froing, backwards and forwards, changing mind, nibbling and squabbling over 2 years that cost us over $2 million. On that project, $2 million at least down the drain through messing about. Make it very clear, understand it. Don't play games with these projects. This is a serious project. It's got serious federal government funding. They're not going to be interested where the $22,000 came from. They put millions in, just like we did. And I think it's been said, I don't think some people really realise just how valuable this asset of ours is, because it's an amazing asset. We don't know how lucky we are to have it. And and to have volunteers with the expertise and the capacity that we've got that run this boat and look after it and support it, and the people in the Riverboat Centre that talk to children and visitors of all ages that come to this place, what they're doing for boats and the tradition of boats and steamboats on this River Murray is fantastic, and we we should be bending over backwards. What more can we do for you? Not squibbling over a few dollars. So Councillor Coomans, yeah. Well, it's Councillor Coomans' right of reply. I asked. No, you can't speak. I'm not speaking again. No, I asked, and nobody put their hand up. I said I will now speak because I can. It's my turn, and then Councillor Coomans into my reply. So you've missed. No, well, we didn't.
Thank you, Mayor Parks. I think it's all been said. I just take issue with this gun at the head thing. It certainly has not been anything like that. I think the cooperation between the staff, the ongoing meetings that have taken place, the amount of effort the staff have put into this, the amount of effort that the Friends have put into this, and I've been involved as a liaison person, that this is a fantastic project, and if you haven't seen it, you want to take some time out of your very busy day and go and have a look at and see what they're doing. It's not going to be 100% complete for the Wooden Boat Festival, but this money will then be used to complete the things that need to be done, and I mentioned those in my opening remarks. So I'd ask you all to support this. Thank you.
So that ends the discussion. So I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. So Councillor Coomans is calling a division. I just remind elected members that a division is a new vote. I would ask all those voting in the affirmative to please stand. So you've got Councillor Thornton, Councillor Scott, Councillor Coomans, Councillor Livingston, Councillor Maidment, Councillor Nicholson and Councillor Gardner. Thank you. And Councillor Oliver, sorry. I'm sorry. Those voting in the negative, would you please stand? That is Councillor Miller. It is carried. So 9.4 is an application for a memorial plaque on an existing seat, and there's a recommendation with 3 dot points. So is there a mover for that? Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Your Worship. I know how passionate these people are who belong to the asbestos victims Fleurieu support group. It's not going to cost us anything. It's going to go on a seat that's already there. I can't see a major problem for this at all, and I'd hope you'd all vote for it.
So do we have a seconder? Councillor Oliver, do you wish to speak? No. Do we have anybody to speak against it? Councillor Scott.
Yes, Your Worship, this is difficult, and I clearly acknowledge the suffering and the disadvantage that the members of the victims of asbestos have gone through, and it's not that I'm challenging. There are other terrible, debilitating diseases, and I'll just cite, we've just said goodbye to a resident of Goolwa with MND, motor neuron disease, and there are other diseases as well. My concern is that if we do this one, where will it stop? There'll be seats with acknowledgement to all sorts of diseases, and then you have to work out whether the disease is of a comparable level that needs to be on a seat. And I don't want in any way diminish the suffering, the understanding of the suffering that those people go through. but they also, people suffer with pancreatic cancer, with brain tumours and strokes and all sorts of things, and multiple sclerosis, to name but a few. And I just feel that it's probably more appropriate that we don't start the trend rather than having to monitor it once it gets going. That's all I wish to say about it. Thank you.
Anybody wish to speak for it? Councillor Maidment.
Yeah, I'm in favour of this. It's an opportunity for other groups at some stage to even maybe sponsor a bench. God only knows we need lots of benches in our council area. I don't see council at the with its present budget have any money set aside for benches within our existing parks, our new parks that are coming on stream. And this is only a plaque. If it's stolen or graffiti, then it's the responsibility of the group. So just acknowledging their good work in the community, and hopefully it opens up an opportunity for other groups or organisations to knock on our door and say, hey, you know, we've got some money for a bench somewhere in one of your parks.
So is there any discussion against? Councillor Gardner, do you wish to use your right of reply? No. So I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. We go to 9.5, which is the renaming of Heinicke Avenue Reserve to the Rotary Centenary Park. There's a recommendation there with 4 dot points. Is there a move for that?
If I may just declare that I have a close relative that has been involved in the developing of this park, and has been involved with the planting and the watering, the general development, but I intend staying in the chamber and voting, but I just want to be completely transparent about any relationship with those involved. Thank you. And I am a member of Rotary.
So just to make it clear once more, you are supposed to declare any conflict before the meeting and again when the item comes up, not when the item comes up, start declaring conflicts.
I had my hand up earlier.
Councillor Scott, on something that you've had since Thursday. So you may have had your hand up, but you didn't declare it before the meeting. So you have to declare it before the meeting. It's quite clear, and you have to declare it when the item comes up. There's no grey areas, it's black and white.
I thought it was at the start of the meeting.
Now, is there anybody to move the recommendation? Councillor Nicholson. And do you wish to speak to it?
Thank you, Your Worship. The incredible volunteers from Rotary have put so much hard work and dedication into planting at this reserve. I live very close to this reserve, and for many years I've not known what the name was. So I think it is brilliant that we have the opportunity to give it a really meaningful name that recognises the amazing work that has gone into the reserve, and also gives it a really strong sense of identity for our community. So I wholeheartedly move this motion and seek the support of the Chamber. Thank you.
We have a seconder, Councillor Gardner. Do you wish to speak to it? No. So do we have somebody to speak against it? A question?
Renaming a reserve, should that not have gone through the Heritage Advisory Committee at some stage? Because I didn't see it on any of their documentation or their minutes.
My apologies. I can't recall it being in the document, and the report authors were unable to be here tonight, but I don't recall that it went. No.
So is there any discussion against the recommendation? If not, you wish to have your right of reply, Councillor Nicholson. Councillor Scott, can you turn your microphone off, please?
Can I seek further clarification that should this go to the Heritage Advisory Committee? Should this be deferred through the Heritage Advisory Committee?
Through the chair, again, apologies, I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think it's in a heritage area. So the report author has put it through the normal public initiating a road reserve and or public naming process under that policy. I don't know the policy well enough by heart.
Do you wish to provide a reply?
Thank you. Assuming and having confidence that it has gone through all of the required stages, I commend this to the chamber and think it would be a really positive thing to see this reserve named with respect to the Rotary Club and all of their incredible work there. Thank you.
Ends the discussion, so I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. (9.6) is the Fleurieu Aquatic Centre 2025-26 budget, and there's a recommendation there with 2 top points. Is there a mover?
Were you going to take some questions on the report at all, or do we do it within the motions?
You can take questions. You can ask a question about it if you wish to.
Well, I was just interested to know. The report talks about improving energy efficiency, and it's proposed about $570,000 for that. And I wonder whether part of their intention is to include further solar panels, and perhaps solar panels, something that would benefit both visitors and the energy group. Something like the Edwardstown car park, where the solar panels are used for shade, for energy generation, and you know, from an economics point of view, it sounds very worthwhile. Is that something that the Aquatic Centre are also considering?
Thank you. Through the chair, yes, absolutely. So the energy assessment, I think it was $11,000 or something like that. We'll absolutely look at all the modern ways of reducing the energy costs. And since the subsidiary looked at it a couple of years ago, things have definitely changed. So we need to use that energy audit to give us some recommendations about where to go. It could be that we go to a place like Shine Hub, which actually gives you a lot of different recommendations to do with not even on the premises, but it might be on land that either ourselves or Victor Harbour own, that we might be able to invest on. So very much looking forward to being able to undertake that assessment.
So, do we have a mover? Move, Councillor Miller. Are you moving it? A question?
Sorry, Worship. I thought we were introducing a new system of questions of clarification. Since I've been on council, several members, including myself, have asked for patronage by postcode breakdown. 168,000 attendances and membership of 1,200. I'd like to know where they are from. We can never get this answer. I think it's been 2.5 years we've been asking for this.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll take that formally on notice and provide those numbers to you all.
Councillor Maidment, you wish to move it? Yep.
So I note the FRACA 30th of January committee meeting had 4 senior Alexandrina staff in attendance, a GM who stood in for the CEO. There were no Victor Harbour staff there. We had 2 Alexandrina councillors, 2 Victor Harbour councillors, and the chair, of course, is the CEO of Victor Harbour. It seems that there's a bit of an imbalance on staff time in this particular meeting. Are we reimbursed for time to operate this? It seems that we're running the show at the moment from that particular meeting.
Thank you. Through the Mayor. So Alexandrina Council is the auspicing or the host council. So we do absorb to a point the resources needed to help run this facility along with the YMCA. It is very much like we're finding our feet and setting up a new business, so to speak. Alexandrina Council took over this auspicing in August last year as per the joint venture agreement, and we have needed extra staff members to come on board, understand it, so we know how we can all support each other. I am actually the CEO delegate on that committee, so you'll see my name on basically every single paper, so I'm not actually just standing in for different meetings. I'm actually Andrew, the CEO on those meetings. But yeah, we've had to bring in some senior staff to really understand that business so that we can all get on and support it. And we are looking in the future about different ways of recouping the costs, I guess, but at the moment it is largely Alexandrina Council. However, Victor Harbour Council have continually offered that if we need support from their team, that we can absolutely ask and they'll support us.
So do we have a mover for it? Councillor Gardner, and do you wish to speak to it? Do we have a seconder? Councillor Nicholson? Do you wish to speak?
Thank you. At our recent joint venture committee meeting, we reviewed the YMCA business and marketing plan, which had some really incredible human movement data that did show where people are travelling from to attend the aquatic centre, and a lot of other data. So I think that would be really beneficial for everybody to have access to when it's available. And the joint venture committee is working really hard to make sure that every decision is deliberated over very carefully using the best quality information that we can get. And in terms of the energy efficiency project and every decision on behalf of the councils together in managing the aquatic centre, you know, I think front of mind is that every decision and project has to deliver economic returns for our community and ratepayers. This is a really significant service that we provide to our ratepayers and community. And every decision is deliberated over very carefully. So I'm comfortable with the recommendations here and hope that the Chamber will support it. Thank you.
So do we have a speaker against it? A question?
No, look,
speak against it? Yep.
Look, I need to raise that number, part D, the constituent council's contributions is 459,500. And I've been made aware from an elected member in Victor Harbour that they actually moved a motion to get out of this centre totally or give it to Alexandrina to take up. And I'm rather concerned about, it didn't succeed. It was last month's meeting. It didn't succeed, but it didn't fail by all that much. So I'm a bit concerned that Victor Harbour are showing less and less interest in this facility, and if they do step out, probably not at the moment, but if they did, we'd be hung with $1 million rather than $500,000.
So is there a speaker for the recommendation? No. Councillor Gardner, do you wish to provide a reply on it?
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a very important project that our two councils have, and the relationship that we have with Victor Harbour Council is excellent. We work really well together, and they are as enthusiastic as we are enthusiastic. That is Councillor Nicholson and I, who were both on that committee. I've actually been on the committee since it began as a working party. So prior to the aquatic centre being built, I was there. It's exceedingly important for our local community. There are hundreds and hundreds of people who go every week. In fact, it's so darn busy that in the gym section where they have the aquatic, what is it called? Pardon? Yes, the aqua aerobics. You have to ring at 6:30 in the morning in order to get a place. So there are many people who want to use that facility. There are always people who are against particular issues. It can't be helped. It's a human condition. But that does not diminish the fact that this is a very important aquatic centre. Lots of people can't do without it. And we know that. I have a friend who has MS. She's there every week with all her friends who are also afflicted with MS. They can't do without this. It's very, very important. So despite there might be on Victor Harbour some council members who don't like the water and don't want to have anything to do with it, the fact is that this program is like all the other programs that we have in council, our libraries. We need roads, but no one questions roads. We need a whole range of things that our community not only want but need, and this is one of the needs.
So that ends the discussion, so I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. So 9.7 is the Adelaide Hills Regional Waste Management Authority Draft Annual Budget and Business Plan 2025-26. Councillor Miller.
I wish to declare a material conflict of interest due to my employer being a constituent member and may derive a benefit or loss subject to council's decision, and I'll be leaving the chamber. Thank you.
So I'll try and get back onto our format. Andrew, do you have anything to add to the report? No. So there are any questions for clarification, and I mean clarification.
Are we the first council that this has been brought before? Because there are 3 other councils in the Fleurieu Regional Waste Authority group. So,
Yeah, through the chair, I'm just looking at Andrew. I don't think we have the answer to that question tonight, unfortunately.
Are there any other questions for clarification? So we've got the recommendation there with 2 dot points. Is the remover for that? Councillor Gardner. Do you wish to speak to it?
Only that we can't do without organisations like this. We need them. We'd be up to our eyeballs in rubbish. So it's this is a very important group, and I hope that you will vote in favour of this.
So a seconder, Councillor Coomans. And you wish to speak to it? No. So is there anybody who wishes to speak against it? If not, I will put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. So if I can get Councillor Miller back, please. So 9.8 is Fleurieu Regional Waste Authority Business Plan for 2024-27. and their long-term financial plan and draft budget 2025-26. Again, Andrew, do you have anything to add to the report? No. So are there any questions for clarification on this item? Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just wondering when we may receive the presentation in regard to the asbestos issue so we can be fully informed. They are meant to make a presentation to both Audit.
Through the chair, we'll be presenting to the Audit and Risk Committee at their next meeting, and I'm just looking at my emails. I might just come back to you in a moment if that's all right and let you know the date, but it's soon after. I think it's in May when we had a briefing session that allowed it to progress. I'll just find that date.
Did you have another question?
Sorry, the 12th of May, we've scheduled that in for.
Given that this is coming up soon and given that the risk and the materiality potentially of the asbestos thing keeps escalating, can we defer consideration of this until we receive that briefing?
Through the chair, I guess council can move that way, but wishes to defer this report.
We're currently just getting questions for clarification. Councillor Miller.
I have a question about, on page 282, 3.2.5 reads, investigate voucher system for free waste disposal. Is that green waste disposal? It's on page 282 of the agenda in their business plan and budget. 3.2.5 reads, investigate voucher system for free waste disposal. And I'm just curious if that's if that's green waste.
Yep. Through the Mayor, yeah, that is correct.
So are there any further questions for clarification? So do we have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Gardner, and you wish to speak to it? Yeah.
So do, Your Worship. Fleurieu, as far as I'm concerned, has an unenviable task because it's an enormous task, because if everybody, including you and me, and all our constituents and every organisation who used Fleurieu, including the group that dumped the asbestos a number of years ago, if everybody behaved and everybody knew what they were doing with their rubbish, we wouldn't have any trouble. But we do have trouble because we're all human and we all make mistakes, and some of us make deliberate mistakes. So I think instead of jumping up and down and complaining and saying that Fleurieu really hasn't done their job, I think we should be congratulating them personally, because they have, as I said, an unenviable job. And I am very, very grateful to them that they do take my rubbish away. Both my rubbish, which I must say is a lot smaller than it's ever been in its life, because there's only one of me, but my recycling and my green waste. We are indeed fortunate to have an authority that is willing to deal with all the issues that come to them every day of the week. And so I hope that you will all vote in the affirmative for this.
So do we have a seconder? Councillor Miller, are you seconding it?
Yes, Your Worship. I just want to say thank you for this report. It's a comprehensive report, and I believe we do need to deal with this tonight, because we need to factor their budget and plans into our own budget. I think the free green waste drop-off vouchers for Ashbourne and our smaller communities is something that I'm delighted is in there. Well, that free green waste disposal is, the voucher system is being looked at. In February 2024, we received a report that advised the Strathalbyn depot was operating in the black and site enhancements could be achieved and any costs associated with that recovered within 2 to 3 years. I note the answers to my questions on notice on this agenda, and I hope that allocation to improve the operations of this site are not removed and do indeed progress, and a redesign of that site must occur. And I'm glad to see it's on top of their what we would do list on page 282 of the agenda. I just think it is, I can only endorse what Councillor Gardner has said, and this is a critical function of local government, and I think the report is really good, and I will be supporting the recommendations. Thank you.
So do we have a speaker against the recommendation? Councillor Oliver.
Thank you. I would like nothing more than to be in the position to be able to vote for this, but the asbestos thing has been going on for a while. It's an escalating problem. In fact, I've been asking as a member of the Audit and Risk Committee and as a councillor for months, if not years now, to gain an understanding. Each time I get told it's confidential, subject to legal privacy. We've been promised finally a briefing. Now it's on the horizon. Why can we not just wait a month or so we can be fully informed? I get asked by the community, members of the community, about this problem all the time, and I cannot give them an answer. So I'm sorry, I will not vote for this until we receive what we've asked and been promised.
We have somebody to speak, who wants to speak for it. Councillor Livingston.
Yeah, not speaking for it. Just a question in terms of procedure, what I need to do to seek a formal motion to defer this item till next council meeting.
Straightforward. If you wish to move a formal motion, you say, I wish to move a formal motion.
That's why I'm asking. Mayor Parks.
That's straightforward. Yeah.
Okay,
so
then
is that what you've got to tell me? I can't tell you.
I was asking a question of clarification as to procedure, but yes, I would like to make a formal motion to defer this item to the next council meeting.
So, to adjourn it, yeah. Is there a seconder, Councillor Tash? No.
Through the chair, if I just may, while you're considering moving this motion, I pulled up the subsidiaries charter, which has the dates. Pete Oliver asked a question earlier. So the council has to notify FRAWA of their approval or otherwise by the 1st of May. And the authority must adopt their budget by the 31st, between the 31st and the 30th of June. So council will need to make a decision by the 1st of May.
We have a formal motion that it be adjourned. Is there a second for the formal motion? Councillor Oliver. So it's a formal motion that it be adjourned to the next council meeting. I'll put that to you. All those in favour? So it's a formal motion. All those in favour?
What is the why? Why is this being adjourned?
There's no need to be disclosed why it's to be adjourned. It's a formal motion. Now, we've all been in this chamber long enough to know what motions are, how they work. It's a formal motion. There's no discussion. So all those in favour of the formal motion to adjourn? Against? So it's lost. So we go back now to the original recommendations. So we're looking for a speaker for. Councillor Nicholson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate the questions that have been asked and the information that would be beneficial for this chamber, but in light of the advice that we need to make a decision by the 1st of May, I can't see how we can delay this decision, and we need to make it tonight. Thank you.
So now we go to speaker against. Councillor Livingston. So you can't speak to it because you moved a formal motion, so I'm told. So is there a person to speak against it? So in that case, before Councillor Gardner has her right of reply, I'll just make a comment for clarification. They need to borrow the money so that they can continue on with the exercise of the remediation and fixing up the problem. They can't get an insurance claim lodged. They've advised the insurer there's a pending claim. I can't explain that to you because the claim is not quantified. Simple as that. But that's just all I can say. But they've just got to go on with the process. So, Councillor Gardner, do you wish to have a right of reply? I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. 9.9 is the lease. Mr. Oliver.
Thank you, Mayor. There are material conflict of interest in relation to this item, as I'm a part owner in a family business that is to be party to a lease with council under the provisions of the lease and licence policy. As such, I and family members may gain a pecuniary benefit or suffer a loss, depending on the outcome of council's consideration. I'll be leaving the chamber for the debate and the vote. Thank you.
Councillor Livingston. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Parkes. I wish to also declare a conflict of interest. I confirmed that during the meeting, a material conflict of interest due to a related party being a lessee of a council-owned property, and I'll be leaving the chamber.
Nine 9.9 is lease and licence policy 2025 review. Lisa, anything to add to that report? No. So, do you wish to move it?
May I ask a question?
Yes. For clarification, sorry, yeah.
A clarification, yes. Can I clarify, please, about holding over of an existing agreement? And I'm wondering if it's possible to include something like to consider a time limit on holding over of an existing agreement on its expiry, so that the existing tenant does not endure unnecessary anxiety and uncertainty for an extended time. Is it possible to include that?
So through the chair, the holding over clause is a legal position that we apply to most of our leases. A holding over clause allows a tenant to continue on site as a monthly tenant until further notice. We do have the ability to amend that clause and to put a time limit on it per case, or we could have a blanket approach where we put a time limit on the length of time a holding over clause is permitted. However, that can sometimes be to the detriment of the tenant. So my suggestion would be that if we did that, we would look at that on a case-by-case basis when we initiated the original lease.
Do we have any further, Councillor, a question for clarification? Councillor, who's doing it? Councillor Coomans? Let's go for it.
Sorry, it's one of those nights. My question is, there's so much detail in this, and trying to work out how it impacts the various community groups. Is it possible that we defer this for a workshop or an information so we can have some more detailed discussion about the contents? I'd really like that to happen.
So through the chairs, there's nothing dependent on the outcomes of this review tonight, so we can do that if required.
Any other questions or clarification? Councillor Maidman.
If this is deferred, then my question doesn't need to be answered, but there are quite a few community groups with 21-year leases, and I noticed here on page 84 that a minor commercial community group would have to re-sign a 10-year lease under this policy. Is that what you envisage happening? Because I see the emergency services have 21-year leases, but no changes are proposed.
So through the chair, there's no changes proposed in regards to the lease term for existing tenants or any changes to the original policy that we're looking to amend. What we're looking to do is simply add an additional term of 10 years for those community groups that make a commercial income. So our current policy is a maximum of 10 years for our community and our minor community commercial groups, and that's not intended to change, with there always being the option to do an exception to the policy to allow any user of one of our buildings or land to have a term longer than the 10 years. The reason why 21 years was adopted when we looked at the lease and licence policy last time was because in most instances, the improvements to the land for emergency services are lessee built, so they're not council built. So it was determined when we reviewed the policy last that it was in all best interests for us to give them a longer lease term so that we didn't inherit a building that may have reached end of life by that time.
Any further questions for clarification? Councillor Miller?
Thank you. I'm with Councillor Coomans on this one. I have several questions. Sorry, I don't, if someone's going to move that it be adjourned or deferred, then I'll save them. But if equally, I would have been happy to progress with this. But I would like to have some examples of each category. And, you know, it's just, yeah, I wondered what the significance of the 6th of May date was. I wondered what category the Goolwa Oval would fit into when they ever eventually sign their lease. And I had other questions on other entities, so I'll wait and see what happens.
Are there any other questions for clarification? So we'll just look for a mover for the recommendation.
Could I move an adjournment to the next council meeting?
No, you can't. Not until it's been moved and seconded.
Okay. What happens if no one moves and seconds it?
And it will lapse. Yeah, but you can't move a formal motion to it.
Members, just a point of clarification, because there is not a motion on the floor, there can't be a formal motion to move to the next item of business or to adjourn. However, what I suggest is that a member just move a motion, just a normal motion, that, that the revised lease and licence policy is workshop prior to being brought to a future meeting of council for consideration.
So move.
So do we have a second? Councillor Miller, you're seconding that?
Can I just check what the wording is, though? That what I'm seconding, please?
Yeah. Yeah, happy with it?
Seconder, I would have to see that it is deferred until workshopped. Just with the word deferred, that's all.
He's moved it and he's happy with the change. Yeah, we've asked for a second. Councillor Miller seconded it. Yeah, for further.
Councillor Miller has seconded that.
Yeah, for further second consideration.
May I speak? Is that?
Are you both happy with that wording? Okay. So is there anybody who wishes to speak against that? Councillor Miller, what, you wish to speak?
I do. would like to speak about this. I'm happy to second deferral of this to a workshop. I have a very high level of trust in any report, in the report. It's not about that, it's just that I don't quite understand the implications of it and feel perhaps that a briefing session regarding its application or an opportunity to ask questions just would give us all a bit of a higher level of comfort. So I'm glad that Councillor Coomans has suggested this or moved this way. I do like the rigour being applied, and I think at the end of the day we have to balance our community needs and support and getting the maximum return on our assets and understanding everything that's associated with this. I'm not sure why the quarterly reporting to council is being stopped and replaced with a register, not publicly available but shared in the portal, so I'd like to understand that a little bit more. And I think we need to retain reporting to council because, you know, and I appreciated having clean and marked up copies. That was really good, so I look forward to the workshop and having the opportunity to talk about this more. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Councillor Coomans, do you want to write a reply on it?
I did have a number of questions which now I can ask in the workshop, but I was trying to put various groups who use council facilities in a situation and saying, well, where do they sit? And I found it very hard to do that, except maybe the Goolwa Oval. But yeah, so I think we just need to have some more discussion about this. Community impacts are on.
So I'll put the new recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. If we can get Councillor Livingston back. So 9.10 is the development assessment fee waiver and refund policy. Stacey, is there anything you've to add to that report? Are there any questions for clarification? So is there a mover for the 3 dot points? Councillor Gardner. Wish to speak to it? Is there a seconder? Councillor Livingston. To speak to it? No. Is there any discussion against it? I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? It's carried. 9.11 is a policy for adoption, information or briefing sessions policy. Lachlan, anything to add to that report? No. Are there any questions for clarification? Not, I will put the recommendation. All those in favour. You're moving it?
Yes, I am, Your Worship. I just, in the report, you recommend that we do 1 to 3 and then deal with 4. So if I read correctly, I'm equally, so I'm just taking the advice of administration and doing.
So we're doing 1 to 3.
1 to 3, sorry.
Do you wish to speak to it?
I'm delighted by it. I think this is really helpful for our community. It's helpful for us. This started out with me asking administration for a policy I wanted to move a motion and I sought advice on having the audio. So point 4 was what I was trying to achieve. But if 1 to 3 is the first step, then I'm more than comfortable with that, and then deal with 4 in a minute. Thank you. So thank you very much for bringing this forward.
Is there a seconder, Councillor Nicholson? Do you wish to speak? Is anybody wish to speak against it? If not, I'll put the recommendation 1, 2 and 3 to you. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. We now go to dot point 4. Is there a mover for dot point 4? Councillor Miller?
Yes, I'd like to move this. I think for the budget discussions, I'm not that fussed about the presentations, but I do think the audio, releasing the audio would be really helpful for our community who's interested in this. And I'm happy to leave the discretion to the CEO as to what gets redacted and what doesn't, but thank you very much. I hope this gets supported. I think we've done so much work on this budget it's been an incredible experience. And I just hope that I did have, I think it's a really important opportunity for the community to see what has been considered and how very how much time we've devoted, all of us, and to achieving a budget that hopefully will be supported by the community.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Maidman? And do you wish to speak to it? Is there anybody to speak against it? If not, I'll put point 4 to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 9.12 is the Chief Executive Officer's report. There's a recommendation that report for March 2025 be received. Andrew, have you got anything to add to your report?
No, nothing.
No. Any points for clarification? If not, do we have a mover that we received? Councillor Maidman, your clarification, or are you moving it?
You met with Gem Life. Could you explain who they are?
That's part of the discussion on the item. That's not clarifying the report. So when we get into the item, then you can ask questions about the report.
I'll be happy to answer.
You can answer it, but there's a right way to go and a wrong way.
Yeah, through the chair, Gen Life, I think they provide like age type housing or affordable type housing, and I think they're doing a development in Strathalbyn, are they not, on the old transport site? Yeah, so I think they're already invested in Strath.
So, just is there any questions for clarification? No. So, is there a mover for Andrew's report be received? Moved, Councillor Oliver. Is there a seconder? Councillor Coomans. Are there any questions or comments of Andrew? Margaret. Councillor Gardner. You got your hand up. You wish to... You can't, when I want them up, you can't put them up. When I don't want them up, you do. Is there anybody got a question? Councillor Miller.
I just was curious about what the purpose of the Goolwa Netball Club meeting was, if it was about the Oval Agreement or not.
Through the chair, it's just a conversation about their netball facilities, their shed, general access to the main building, that is the toilets. A lot of people visiting the site aren't aware where the toilets are, so it was a conversation about, is it possible to get some signage, those types of operational things.
Any other questions of Andrew? If not, I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? You against? Let's start again. Can we do it all together, please? All those in favour? Against? That is carried unanimously. So we go to 9.13, which is the Council Resolution Register. Again, that's Andrew's report. Have you anything to add to that?
Nothing.
No? Are there any questions on that for clarification? If not, is there a mover for that recommendation? Councillor Maidman. And do you wish to speak to it? Is there a seconder? Councillor Livingston. And do you wish to speak? So is there anyone who wishes to speak against the recommendation? You wish to ask something?
Yes, I do wish to ask about some of the resolutions, if I may. Is that what we're doing? The resolution register?
Yep.
I guess my comment is that May is going to be a very busy month because there are lots of reports flagged here to be coming to May. I had a question about the Goolwa Oval, the 13th of April 2025 update, presenting the draft lease for council to consider in the next few months, subject to the committee's endorsement. I'm curious as to, another year's passing by and what's the amount we are allocating in our draft ABP and budget for the Goolwa Oval Recreation Precinct. I was curious where we landed last year, what the budget figure was when it's, I've got so many questions about that, but we still won't get to see that for another couple of months by the sounds of it, which is concerning. Resolution, the township greening one, that's being marked as complete, but I'm not sure we've seen the township greening strategy. And there's on page 190 advice that 40k has been redirected to the field service budget line. So I just wondered what we aren't doing with that money. I note that the agenda from the workshop, the subcommittee workshop, was on the website, but the minutes or actions haven't been shared with any of us. The Malang Oval leases, I'm not sure why a report needs to come back in May. I thought that was all sorted. The Langwong Creek Code Amendment, what's the timing of this, and will there be any application to review the EFPA zoning around Langwong Creek? Sorry, should I stop?
You'll need to put these questions in writing.
Oh.
We just can't answer them all on the run.
No, but the resolution says if we support this, then what's being marked as complete will be complete. So I'm trying to clarify whether if I don't vote against this, then they're going to be complete when I don't think they are, and I'm curious about their status.
Well,
that's all. So.
If you don't believe they're complete, don't vote in favour of it. Simple.
Through the chair, if I may, it's just difficult, Councillor Miller, to remember all of those questions. We'd probably need to take one at a time if that's what you're wanting to ask.
Well, then I'm happy to put them on notice, or to have them answered after. I'm just concerned. Why does a report need to come back in May about the Malang Oval leases? I'll ask them one at a time.
I'll get the manager of property to answer that one for you.
Is that on? Yeah, sorry. So through the chair, the reason that we need to bring the Malang Oval back is because since the last report to council, we've been negotiating the terms and conditions of the two agreements. As part of the resolutions from the last council meeting, we determined to issue 2 new leases, one to the Malang District Historical Society and one to the Malang Oval Incorporated for different portions of the Oval. Since that time, we've progressed in negotiations and the Malang Oval are asking for a deed of variation only to their lease rather than a new lease to exclude the Historical Society from their lease. The resolution from council says that we are issuing 2 new leases. We've been able to negotiate a position with them so we can move this forward, that they will accept that there is 2 leases if their existing lease is simply amended through a deed of variation, which is contrary to the resolution that we last put to council.
The staff survey and community survey, do we have a provision in our ABP to do community consultation on this, or to do the staff survey? But that's coming to May, but I just wondered, we'll be going out we're having a special council meeting on the 12th of May to endorse the budget to go out to community consultation, but I wondered if we were going to do a community survey next year at all.
Through the chair, there's not a provision in the future budget for that. Will be what the report is requesting us to bring forward a report to council to consider all the information regarding that, which we'll be doing in May.
And just one final one, where are we at with the Strathalbyn Harness Racing Club?
Through the chair, my understanding is we're still waiting on them to do some due diligence, and that then needs to be reviewed by myself and Stacey and also Matthew prior to sort of coming back to council. So we want to make sure that the information is appropriate in terms of due diligence. So we're still waiting on that.
So is anybody to speak against the recommendation? If not, I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. It's now 8 o'clock and we've just got to the committee reports. So if you would like, we can have a 5-minute break, literally 5 minutes. So we'll start again at 5 minutes past 8. Righto, we'll get ready to start. We'll start again. So Councillor Scott. If you're not here, we'll start without you. Councillor Maidman. It's more than 5 past. So item 10 is committee reports. 10.1 is a report from the Cemeteries Advisory Committee and the Cemetery Management Plans, and that's from Jonathan, who's not here. But Alan, do you have anything to add to that report? So we've got a recommendation there with 2 dot points. Are there any questions for clarification on that report? Gardner.
Your Worship, there, together with the Cemeteries and the Heritage Advisory Committee, there's 54,000 that is wanted from the Heritage Advisory Council, Advisory Committee, and 35 from Cemeteries. And I'm just wondering, is it possible to take these reports out for the time being so we can take them to the next workshop, so we can talk about maybe taking something else out of budget to put these in? I'm not sure whether this is possible.
Like we did with another item a little bit earlier, you can move that we defer this, handle this item after following a workshop.
Perhaps just to clarify. Through the chair, maybe just to clarify and over to Alan, is this not for the 24-25 budget?
Yep, through the Mayor, it is for 24-25. The reason why we've asked for that is because there is an immediate gap that we need to start filling around the progress of these management plans on each of our sites.
Any further questions for clarification? Councillor Miller.
It's not explicit in the recommendation, but I'm assuming this adjustment will be made at BR3. That's when we'll be capturing it in Budget Review 3. And actually I'll debate it, but I'm just wondering, there's nothing there that says with an adjustment to be made in Budget Review 3.
So the third budget review report is based on the known knowns, and this report coming to this council meeting and the timing of the audit and risk committee, which the third budget review had to go to. It has not been included in the third budget review as yet because this report is pending to this meeting.
So do any have any further questions for clarification? If not, we'll look for somebody to move the recommendation. Councillor Oliver, and do you wish to speak to it?
Very briefly. Look, in past years, I've noticed a surprising underspend or low spend in this area. And in fact, we've been below budget, I think, in a couple of years when I've drilled down on it. I think this service, the community really thinks it has to be done properly and respectfully. And there are significant opportunities for improvement and time. And introducing care. So while I don't like the budget review process, I think this one's highly appropriate.
So do we have a second? Councillor Maidment, and do you wish to speak to it?
Just briefly, we have 4 managed sites with plans, and we have 4 active cemeteries without plans desperately needed, and obviously it states in the report that there's only 20,000 in the cemeteries budget, so to capture all those cemeteries which are being utilised on a regular basis or for burials and such, we need to really crack on with this extra money to have these management plans in place.
So do we have anybody who wishes to speak against the recommendation? If not, I will put the recommendation to you. Councillor Miller.
I'm not speaking against it, but I do wish to speak for it. I'm very comfortable with this happening, but I just want to know where the money's coming from, because it's 35,000 that's unbudgeted. And this is a perfect example of what occurs during the year. And I look forward to us slowly getting our, I guess, strategic planning right, the delivery of the strategies, and identifying what budget is needed to deliver on these plans that we have. So my question is, what are we either not doing instead? Are we just increasing our deficit, operating deficit, and basically where the money's coming from? But I am going to support it because I agree that this should happen. But are we provisioning money in the next budget to deliver on these plans as well? So first of all, where's the money coming from, or are we not doing something instead?
So, through the chair, at this stage there is no intention to offset this budget against something else. So essentially it'll be drawing down on available cash flow, which I would expect we would have. So it'd be cash flow drawdown. Andrew? Yep, thank you.
Any further discussion on it? Not, I will put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 10.2 is a report from the Audit and Risk Committee, the Independent Chairperson's Special Meeting Summary. The report author is Aaron, but Aaron's not here, but Tash is here. Is there anything to add to the report? Are there any questions for clarification? Councillor Miller.
I just wondered why we're receiving the Audit and Risk Committee special meeting minutes here and we didn't receive them at the beginning of the meeting.
Through the chair, it's because we need to receive a summary of the meeting as per the Act, and we have a process of that our chair summary is provided with the minutes, so that's why it's done separately compared to the other one.
So are there any further questions for clarification? If not, I'll look for a mover for dot point 1, 2 and 3. Councillor Oliver, do you wish to speak to it?
Very briefly. And successful chairing of his first meeting. Also Rudy Deco, and he's a great pickup with great expertise. The Audit and Risk Committee is really, really important, and it's a really, really tough job. So I've got to say, I'm really looking forward to their contribution during their tenure. Thank you.
So do we have a seconder? Councillor Coomans. Do you wish to speak to it? So does anybody wishes to speak against the recommendation? No. So I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 10.3 is a report from the Audit and Risk Committee regarding the Essential Services Commission of South Australia report. There's a recommendation with 4 dot points that's presented by Andrew. Andrew, do you have anything to add to this report? No? Are there any questions for clarification? If not, do we have a person to move the report? Move. Councillor Oliver, do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, I do, and I do apologise in advance. I do want to say a little bit more. This is very, very close to my heart, my area of expertise. Thank you, Ascosa, for your report. And on behalf of the community, I welcome findings and support all of your recommendations unequivocally. Are effectively our regulator, and in simple terms, the regulator says that what we've been doing is unsustainable, and what we've been planning to do is most likely unsustainable also. The report reflects on my calls. The report reflects on my calls for financial intervention, and without question, we must take action. But the calls of Ascosa are not made in isolation. Our hard-working and considered Audit and Risk Committee, of which I'm proud to be a member, not endorsed the draft long-term financial plan that was crafted and consulted upon. In contrast, the Audit and Risk Committee previously resolved that Council should critically review its cost structure. In the words of former Chairperson, leave no stone unturned. And that's only a snippet of what she said. Just to clarify, this is not a depreciation problem, or is it something that will pass or just go away? The years of multi-million dollar losses are real, and the continued huge rate hikes are unacceptable. We must take action, and take action we will. And I'm delighted and inspired by the fine work of our new CEO and CFO. You have risen to the challenge and cut the fat out of our long-term financial plan with a turnaround close to $3 million per annum. With this relief, and subject to Chamber solidarity, we can minimise rate increases to around 3.5% per annum for the next 4 years. So thank you. Thank you, but our work does not stop there. We must do more. The difficulty is that any changes to our business and service levels, however, must be carefully considered. And in response to this call, the CEO has offered us a pathway for continuous improvement and cost reduction. The core components being a review of services and service levels, and importantly, the associated cost structures. So to the CEO and the community, I say, given the needs, constraints and opportunities, this is an appropriate pathway. And we must pursue this not only to become financially sustainable, but to position us for the brightest of opportunities and futures. Finally, this is not a once-only review. Ascosa will be back. They will return with greater frequency, depth and rigour. They will likely grow teeth and know where to look. We have entered a new age of financial governance with Ascosa as our effective financial regulator, and I look forward to their contribution. Thank you.
So do we have a seconder? Councillor Miller? And do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, I do, thank you. I'd reinforce everything that Councillor Oliver has just said, and I do have a little bit that I would like to say. There were no surprises in this for me. Everything that is contained in this report was pretty much why I nominated for council 2.5 years ago, close to 2.5 years ago. Believe our responses, I do appreciate the report. I think it was appropriate, but I think our responses could have been just a little bit stronger or a little bit more explicit. And I'm just going to speak to a couple of the recommendations that Ascosa have made, because we've not had an opportunity as a chamber or as council members to speak to this. It's only been the administration's response. So on the 29th of April last year, we debated the assumptions and content at length. Ascosa says to continue the good practice of providing 10-year forecasts to show separate results for swims. We must do that. On the 23rd of January in 2024, the CEO we resolved to provide a business case for the separation and operation of the swims and water assets on a separate business, Alexandrina Water, with council as the foundational shareholder. The scope of the business case to include physical swims assets and commercial trading of water. We need a greater focus on that, and we are taking steps to do that. Rec 3 was to review the current budget and identify opportunities for savings and adopt savings targets, track achievements and report to provide evidence of controlling growth in costs. On the 20th of May last year, we committed to undertake a wooden boat strategy review. In 2024-25, we completed a business of services review. We completed a services and visual arts service review, but resolved to pause it. We completed a performing arts service review, and the decisions that fell out of that, we've gone to a hire-only model for Strath Town Hall and the Goolwa Centenary Hall. I'm trying to make the point that we haven't been doing nothing for 2.5 years. We have been, as a chamber, making conscious decisions. We considered, Rec 4 was to consider undertaking a detailed review with our community on what they're willing to pay and the services and asset stock that can be, we can accommodate. There is no point in doing service reviews if we won't action them or not do them because of sensitivities around them. So they are conversations we must prioritise to have with our community. On the 29th of April last year, Council resolved to change the condition audit revaluation cycle in the Asset Revaluation Management Plan from 4 years to 3 years. That will contribute to reducing our risk from the depreciation blowout. It's a fundamental part of our budget and we must maintain a focus on it. The CEO at the time last year, and I am delighted with our new CEO and our new CFO and everything that's going on, but I do think we do have to acknowledge that our former CEO, from the moment he walked in the door, commenced a recalibration of pretty much every aspect of the council administration and leadership. We acknowledged last year that service reviews and efficiency reviews don't happen overnight and they will take more than 1 or 2 budget cycles to implement. It's going to take us well beyond the next couple of years to recover from not sticking to our long-term financial plan for the past 5 to 6 years, to recover from not funding sufficiently and not undertaking asset renewals at planned levels for 8 out of the past 10 years. And commentary was included in last year's draft budget to appreciate the full extent of where we're at. And I just think the budget that was presented to us last year was a $4.15 million deficit, and it modelled what the next 5 years would look like, with different rate increases and a plan to get back to surplus. Last year, we said it would be 7.9 in our long-term financial plan, but we would be making every endeavour to reduce those rate increases into the future, and we are doing that. And I don't think we can overlook that in 2023, like last year was 7.9%, 2023 was 5.9% increase, 2022 was 6.2%, 2021 was 2.7%, and in 2020 it was 1.2%. We delivered those small percentage increases a long way under our long-term financial plan. We didn't cut services or maintenance or projects, and we sacrificed expenditure in asset renewals. The CEO commenced an internal audit on asset management. That's been a 2.5-year undertaking. I think we have to acknowledge that. And I'm very welcoming of the Excelsior findings. I'm delighted the LGA advice scheme is shining a light on the critical functions of local government. And I hope it gives us a platform to push back on asset management is a core function, and I think we've been distracted by expectations that should really rest with state and federal governments. And we can't do it all at once. So I think a combination of a shift that started a couple of years ago and that is being accelerated and articulated for our community so well under our new CEO and our new CFO. I'm eternally grateful for this work that we've done over the past couple of months in building the budget. And I hope we stay the course, and I hope we do tell Excelsior what we've been doing over the last couple of years and what we plan to do. It's cost us $40,000, I think, to receive this advice from Excelsior. So it's really important that we maximise it and acknowledge that our sustainability and affordability are things that in a meaningful way, we have to have those conversations with our community and be open and honest. And I'm nervous about where we're going with rate increases, because we have to make sure that we have provision for when things go wrong. And we've changed just about every budget, every council meeting we add to our budget. And if we're going to continue that practice into the future, we're going to have to be really careful about taking something out. And I've said enough, but I'm delighted with this report.
You spoke for more than 5 minutes, I'll tell you that. So we didn't stop you. Is there anybody that wishes to speak against the recommendation? If not, I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. 10.4 is a report from the Heritage Advisory Committee regarding a Croquet Reserve archway in Port Elliot. And so Sarah, the author, but Stacey, anything to change in this report? Are there any questions for clarification? If not, is there a mover for the recommendation? Move Councillor Gardner. Do you wish to speak to it? Is there a seconder? Councillor Livingston Nicholson, sorry. Do you wish to speak to it? Is there any discussion against the recommendation? If not, I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. 10.5 is a report from the Heritage Advisory Committee regarding a replacement street signs. Stacey, anything to add to this report? No. Are there any questions for clarification? Councillor, no. Any questions for clarification? So you wish to move it, Councillor Gardner? Wish to speak to it?
Your Worship, and I'm delighted to see identification of superfluous signs that can be removed. Very glad.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Nicholson? Do you wish to speak to it? No. Is there any discussion against it? Councillor Oliver?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily against it, but I just wonder, the way we've been approaching everything else with the budget is to look at what saving may exist to put something in. Is there anything in the budget that can be taken out to fund for this?
Spoken. Through the chair, I think what we'll do is at the next workshop, what you'll consider the long form annual business plan and budget and LTFP. I think we need to bring to that workshop the number of items that were resolved tonight by council, which includes one as well, and council can, I guess, consciously consider whether it wishes to remove anything or not.
So is there any discussion against? Councillor Miller, to speak against it?
No, but I have a question. I just wondered if this is the $50,000 wayfinding budget that we removed last year and it was sitting in the annual business plan and budget as an unfunded initiative that we didn't fund, and now there's 50,000 to put back in. Just similar to Councillor Oliver's question, we're going to consider this, but we also have to think about and we're going to do that. So I just am trying to understand. This is has a couple of specific sites, but I'm assuming it's for the whole district that we're looking at for this signage.
Through the chair, it's a similar proposed project as to the wayfinding strategy project from last year. Not quite the same. This one's much more focused on the historic areas. If we were to do and to have the individual style guides made up, if we were to do the same as last year and these parts, we'd have to get that costed up. That would cost more than 50,000.
So is there anybody to speak against the recommendation? If not, I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. 10.6 is a report from the Heritage Advisory Committee. It's regarding road naming at Coorong Keys. Stacey, anything to add to this one? Are there any questions for clarification? This has been to us before several times. If not, is there a mover for it? Move, Councillor Maidment. And do you wish to speak to it?
Very briefly, we had a deputation that was against the renaming of the road to Express Court. Why do we have a naming, a naming arm of this council is to determine the road names appropriate to the particular areas, and Hindmarsh Island has such a list, and so that's why the name thrown up by the developer was knocked back, because we've got a current list. That particular name, Windward, was not on it, so just reinforcing that. Go to the list first, and then after that, maybe have an input.
So is there a seconder? Councillor Gardner, and you wish to speak to it? Is it anybody wish to speak against the recommendation? If not, I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. So 10.7 is a report from the Heritage Advisory Committee regarding a road name in Kyneton. Stacey, anything to add to that report? Are there any questions for clarification on this? Is there a mover for it? Councillor Maidment, do you wish to speak to it?
Same thing again. The developer name is Adams, and he was obviously looking to name the road after his family. Kyneton has a pre-approved road naming list, so there's plenty of names which are complementary to the existing roads named in the area. So there again, why not use that list first?
So do we have a seconder? Councillor Oliver, do you wish to speak to it? Does anybody wish to speak against the recommendation? If not, I will put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. Item 11 is council member reports. 11.1 is my report. Andrew, do you want to add into that? No. Any questions for clarification? If not, I'll put the recommendation to you. Is there a mover for that? Sorry, Councillor Oliver. Do you wish to speak? No. Is there a seconder? Councillor Livingston. Is there any questions or discussion on it? No. So I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. 11.2 is the council member activity report. We have a report from Councillor Gardner. Nothing to add to that. Any questions of Councillor Gardner for clarification? If not, do we have somebody to move that we receive that report? Councillor Nicholson. Second, Councillor Maidment. Anybody wishes to vote against receiving the report? No, so I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. We now go to 11.3, which is the council member activity report verbal updates. So are there any verbal updates, Councillor Oliver?
Not really verbal, but I just want to hold this up. This weekend. Pass around.
Anybody else got a verbal update? Councillor Scott.
Just very quickly, I just want to acknowledge the what I believe to be the extremely good work that our road gang is doing in this end anyway. I've witnessed the maintenance on Deep Creek Road recently and Lovell Road, and the result was absolutely faultless. I've you know, I've watched roads being graded all my life, and I think they are really nailing it now. It's quite a lot of work, but they are doing an extremely good job. And Deep Creek Road was just amazingly, the finish that they got on that was, that's a busy road. So I just want to pass that on, and hopefully it'll find its way down to the relevant staff, because they were just, and very courteous, got out of the way, letting traffic through, and yet they finished up with a very good article. That's all. Thank you.
Are there any other activity reports to add? No. So I'll look for a mover for the recommendation that we receive the reports. Moved Councillor Maidment. Seconder, Councillor Nicholson. I'll put the recommendation to you. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. So item 12 is confidential items.
South Coast Television, your community, your voice.